I really wish it was a cooler story, to be honest. I literally was playing with my head. I was like, how can I make the website like stand out, name wise? Like for anybody in this industry or anybody that even makes content, SEO is huge. Like searchability, findability. You don't want multiple names, you don't want hyphens, you want to avoid it as much as you can. So I was like, how can I make Bromantasy make sense? And I was like, Bromantasy, like this is a bro thing.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Author Adjacent, a show about the journey from hobbyist writer to professional author. I'm your host, Michael Vadney, and today we're doing something a little bit different. I am sitting here with guest Devin Ford, creator of the Bromantasy, a blog that discusses fantasy, sci-fi, and romance, all the novels in between. Welcome to the show, Devin.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely a different type of podcast than I normally do.
Same here. Normally we have like a lot of authors on, or I'll do like a little bite-size dig into something with writing. But I wanted to get you onto the show actually because you kind of have this interesting niche, which coincidentally coincides with everything that I like to read. I like fantasy, I like sci-fi, and I like romance. Those are my three things, and you're covering all of them. So thank you for doing the Lord's work.
Hey, I'm happy to cover them. I definitely feel like we need more of it. I think it's not bridged enough, but we can get into it.
We're getting there. So to get us started, then, what inspired the Bromantasy blog?
So I got back into reading after 14 years of not touching a book in the beginning of 2025. My second daughter was born, and unlike my first, the TV woke her up. So, but she wouldn't not sleep on us for the first few months. So when it was my shift, I needed something to do. And my wife was like, we should read ACOTAR together. And I was like, I'm not reading that book. And she's like, JJ Watt's reading it. And I was like, okay, that's really out of left field, but I'll give it a shot. She DNFs after 100 pages. I read the entire series in like 2 weeks. Um, so that was kind of started my journey into not seeing anybody that was a guy talking about it. Um, and just seeing like if you did see it, it was a lot of people just kind of bagging on it or whatever. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll review it and I'll write a blog. I have a background in software engineering. It's what I do as a day job. So it just kind of made sense. It made it easy. It was very straightforward for me. And it was a way for me to talk about it without having anybody to talk to about it. Um, yeah, so that's kind of really what sparked it all. I was trying to find a way to get more guys to read it by kind of framing it a little differently than what you normally would find.
That's actually really funny. I am also a software engineer. We don't see a
Oh,
lot of us in this space, so yay. I think I read someplace you're an AWS engineer.
yeah, so I do platform for a cloud observability company called Datadog.
I'm very familiar with Datadog actually.
It's
We're
nobody
like
watching this
so
will be unless
yeah,
they're
no,
engineers, but
nobody knows. There's a small overlap of like software engineers and like people in the writing and reading space, but this one's for you guys.
yeah.
So how did that like initial hesitation about like romance and romantasy influence the mission of Bromantasy? How did you
It
come
was
to that?
it was very much like I had my preconceived notions. I'm like, this isn't gonna land for me. Like my wife would watch some movies and they'd be romances, and I would be kind of like checked out. And I did always find myself like doing the side eye where like I'm not gonna watch that, and then you're like this, while you're scrolling on your phone. But it was never anything like I went out of my way to watch. And so the book, I kind of just felt the same way. I was like, what I was reading years ago, it was things like Ender's Game and A Song of Ice and Fire, and stuff like that, high fantasy, epic fantasy, and sci-fi. And I was like, that's what I want to read. And she's like, but this has fairies. And I was like, yeah, I don't care about fairies. She's like, yeah, but no, it's got magic and da 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 da. Like she really sold me on this book and then bounced, which was hysterical. But um, and I really enjoyed it. But what I found was I was like, wow, I had a big preconceived notion about it, and I was completely wrong. And I have no problem. I have two young daughters, and if there's anything I've learned, it's admitting when you're wrong quick and early is better than hanging on to it for no reason.
That's a
Um,
smart choice.
so I've definitely I can recognize when like I'll own that I was completely dismissive of the genre in the beginning. I'm never shy about that. I don't try to paint some picture that I was some like, big romantasy, guru for years. It was definitely something I found that I enjoyed and I was like, I think more guys would probably like this that like fantasy. It's just that instant notion, one, it's not marketed to guys basically at all. But two, it's not like a common thing. It's not the manly thing to read romantasy, you know what I mean? It's years and years of stigma that I'm definitely not going to break down, but if I can find a way to kind of bridge it and make it seem more appealing in a more, masculine way, then I figured why not?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think for me, the realization that I liked romance in my novels was probably This Is How You Lose a Time War.
See, that one I have to read. I don't know why I keep putting it off. It's such a polarizing book. I feel like so many people
It
either love it or
is.
hate it.
I'm in the love camp. I'm a big fan. It is best gone in blind. Like,
Hmm.
if you know anything about it, try to forget that and then read the book. That's my opinion. But I
Yeah,
remember
I know
reading that
very
book
little.
and oh, good, good, keep it that way. But I remember reading it and digging into the story and just eating it up, and then afterwards going, I think I need to expand more into this genre because when I think about it, what I really love about a lot of the stories that I read is the romantic subplots. I love a really good romantic subplot, and I get mad when a romantic subplot is done poorly. So
Yeah.
between that and just reading This Is How You Lose a Time War, I'm like, I'm going to lean into this more. Try to find more stories like this.
Yeah, very similar for me. If anything, I've learned from reading them and then like jumping. I went from ACOTAR to Fourth Wing to Red Rising. Wild transition. But what I did notice is that I liked the same thing in all three, and it wasn't it was the romance to an extent, but it was more the fact that like you have a deep emotional connection to the characters. Like you care about what's happening. If I don't care about a character in a book, or who, especially if it's a single POV, I'm not going to care about the book. I'm going to be bored. I'm not going to want to, I'm not going to feel the stakes. Like they can go to war and I'm not going to care because I'm like, oh, whatever, you kill off some side character that I don't care about and it is what it is. So it's definitely, I find, and I think that's a lot of people. And that's very much, I've noticed that the framing of how you talk about the books, like when you ask somebody what's the thing they remember most about a book they read, they're never going to tell you it was like the description of the pillar in the courtyard with its detailed marble carvings. It's going to be about a character. Like 99% of the time, it's about the character and it's about what happened to that character or the cool thing they did or the cool magic they used and how they used it. It's never, those anecdotal, like, this is what fantasy is, this is what sci-fi is, this is what romance is. It's always character focused, and it's because we connect with characters even in a sci-fi world that is so sff out there. If there's not some kind of a human element to ground you to it, very very rarely do I think that book works for a lot of people.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like what we think about is how the book makes us feel. That's why we read books. That's why we ingest them is because we want to feel things that our life doesn't give us or doesn't necessarily give us in the quantity that we desire. And that's always done through the characters. It's never the blade of grass or the tree or the sky was this color and that was cool. It was the characters did this. Someone jumped off a cliff and did a superhero landing. That was awesome. Like we want to know what they're doing and live their lives through them.
Yeah, I think it's funny when people use escapism as like why they read, and I think that that to an extent is probably true for a lot of people. But I think it's not the escapism. Like when you say it, people think that you're trying to just completely disconnect from your world and stuff like that. And it's more, I think that you're, like you said, you're transporting into another world through another character's point of view, but you're still looking for those parallels. Like the stories that hit you the most are going to be the ones that are closer to your life experience, or something that you're going through at the time. Like if you've lost somebody recently and the story has a lot of dealing with grief and a lot of thematic exploration, I think that's another thing. Like thematic exploration in books doesn't work without characters you connect to, because how else can you do it? You can't go through these themes, you know, revolution, you know, the grief and everything else. It doesn't work if you're not connected with what you're reading, and the characters are the people that are delivering it. You can't deliver grief through world building. You can say there's a tombstone of his mom and then move on and never talk about it again, but if you don't go into the emotional feelings he has when he sees it, that's where I think the book falls apart. And I'd say probably 99% of people are in that camp. I think empathy is huge in reading. I think it's why reading's so important, is it teaches us you have to be empathetic to read. And you know, a good character is going to draw that out of you. Even happy moments, like 9 times out of 10, I think the only time I've ever really cried in a book is not when it's sad. It's some kind of like culmination of everything coming together, and like even if it's not a happy ending, it's a good ending and it fits, and like it's just something worked out in the face of everything being bad. Those are like the ones that always really stick.
Yeah. I I'm not a big crier when it comes to like stories and stuff like that. There are a few things that get me really close, but I can think of two stories that just absolutely demolished me. And at the end, like I am sobbing because of this beautiful, happy moment. And one of them is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. If you
Phenomenal
haven't
book.
read it, highly suggest it. It's so good.
It is.
Which also has like a really good romantic core to it. That's something M.L. Wong does very well, where it is a fantasy story, but the characters and their relationships, not just romantic relationships, but like familial, mother to son, husband to
Mhm.
wife, friend to friend, is what makes the story emotionally impactful. Ah,
Yeah,
it's just so good.
I
Now I'm thinking about it
that
again,
that
just
book
getting a
was
little emotional.
phenomenal. Phenomenal book, and that's another book I think Emma Wong does a really good job. I haven't read Sword of Kaigen yet. I really need to. So Blood Over Brighthaven was my first exposure, and she does thematic exploration. I would argue some of the best I've ever read. Like it, her dive into bias and like not giving. I don't want to spoil the book, so I won't go deep. But like she doesn't give that instant, like the book doesn't start where she's very biased and then at the end like she is now seen the light and she's perfect and never again. Like it is not that. Is very real, I think, to how somebody overcomes bias and the pitfalls and the fallbacks and that kind of stuff. But again, like you said, it's the relationships that make that feel that way.
Yeah. If you liked Blood Over Brighthaven, I think you'll really like Sword of Kaigen as well. I do think Blood is better, but Sword of Kaigen is a different exploration of a different kinds of relationships. I had to read it twice before I really appreciated it, but it was so good the first time that I wanted to read it again.
Yeah, that's always nice. Yeah, it's definitely one. I don't know why it kept getting shifted last year on me, and it's one that I have that I definitely, it's on like a must read this year for me. So it's definitely one I want to do.
Yeah, get on it. I want to hear your thoughts on that one because I really liked it, but it's another one of those. It can be polarizing, especially towards the end of the story.
Hmm.
Yeah, go check that out because then I want to hear what you say.
No, definitely.
But getting back to focusing like on you, can you walk us through the story behind the name Bromantasy and what it represents to you and your platform?
I really wish it was a cooler story, to be honest. I literally was playing with my head. I was like, how can I make the website like stand out, you know, name wise? Like we, for anybody in this industry or anybody that even makes content, you know, SEO is huge. Like searchability, findability. You don't want multiple names, you don't want hyphens, you want to avoid it as much as you can. So I was like, how can I make romantasy make sense? And I was like, romantasy, like this is a bro thing. Like I'm trying to, you know, masculine, or what is the word I'm looking for? Not masculinize, that's not a word, but like make this genre more masculine, you know, trying to guyify it basically. So I was like, bro, what's everybody call, you know, every guy that's ever talked to a guy at some point in his life has called the other one a bro. Um, so I was like, this is perfect because it's like romantasy, bromantasy. I'm literally just putting a B in front of everything, but yeah, and the domain was available, so that was huge.
That's really the stickler right there.
But it's definitely it's transcended a lot. When I first started it, like my focus was I'm gonna be the guy that reads romantasy and fantasy and like tries to bridge that gap. And it has definitely transformed a lot. And I've much more changed like my my mission statement, I guess. From like trying to bridge people from one genre to the other to more kind of just show people why stories work, even if it's not, technically for them. Like so many people would tell me that this book wasn't written for you. That's why you didn't like X thing. And I'm just kind of like, no, I think this is. I mean, first of all, everything is subjective when it comes to reading. I hate anybody that tries to make an objective argument outside of something that is like a literary thing that is taught. Trying to make a objective argument out of a subjective subject always makes me crazy. But it's opinion based. But I think very often you'll see, you know, people say, "Oh, that's not for you. Don't bother picking it up," or "You won't like that because you read Gardens of the Moon and Malazan. There's no way you'll enjoy ACOTAR." I love both books. It's two realms completely different, but I think like Erickson's character work is incredible, and that's the only reason Garden of the Moon works. Don't come for me, Malazan fans, but that book makes absolutely no sense if you're not connected with the characters because you're lost, completely lost. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely shifted to that, like just trying to kind of show people why books will emotionally land regardless of what genre they are in.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, the emotional landing is what's important. Like without it, you don't care. And if you don't care, you're not having a good time. And why are you wasting your time with this book? There's thousands
Exactly.
of others.
Yeah, big fan of my motto this year is DNF early, DNF often. Like there's just too
Ooh,
many books, and it's a hot
yeah.
take, but it I have such limited time to read that I forced myself through a lot of books last year that I didn't enjoy as much, and
Yeah.
I was like, why did I do that to myself?
So how far into a book will you get before you're like, you know what? I gave it a good college try.
I I will give it probably, I try to do 20%, but I will say usually in the first like 50 pages I can tell if I'm going to vibe with a book. Like it's very rare that because normally if it takes me out that early, it's because it's
Yeah.
just like it's clunky dialogue or, something that
Something
for me
egregious.
personally I can't get over and I know it's just going to continue.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I would say I don't DNF very often. I am warming up to the idea of doing it more because like you were saying, like my time is limited and there are literally thousands of books, tens to hundreds of thousands. Like especially with how big the indie community is going and stuff like
Oh.
that, like there's always more options and it's always becoming more of attention grabbing and competitive.
Hmm.
And it is just kind of the way it is. It's a good thing and it is a tough thing. And it's something that we have to deal with now. So we have to be more guarded with our time.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's I'm a firm believer you won't usually see me go in a book or go and review a book that I've DNF'd. It's very rare. Um, there has to be like an egregious reason that I DNF'd it for that I feel compelled enough to even say anything. Most of the time I will do it very quietly. Like I'll never talk about the book again. And like that's kind of the sign that I probably DNF'd it if I mentioned it. Um, the only exception to that rule is like this year I'm doing self-published fantasy book off blog off. Sorry, Mark Lawrence. Yeah. So I'm doing that. I'm assisting Abel, who is the team lead on that. But that is the one area where I have to write DNF reviews if I DNF it. But then again, I always look at it this way: is if you're entering your book into a competition, you are in the agreement that that might happen. Versus if I pick up an indie at random, I'm not going to do that because I don't, you didn't ask me to read this book and review it. So I don't feel comfortable reviewing things I haven't fully read either most of the time. So this is again the exception to the rule, but usually I just kind of go on.
No, I'm 100% with you on that one. With like one, if I don't like a book, I'm usually not very public about it. Like I will sing the praises of any book that I love. I like just started the other day reading Discovery by the Mintons, J.A.J. Minton.
So good.
I'm barely into it. Like I feel like I'm only like the first 5 or 10 chapters in, and I'm like, holy shit! Like
Yes.
whatever is happening here. I have no idea what the plot is, but I am enthralled. Like, I need to know what's happening here. And
Yeah.
again, like we were saying before, it's because the characters
Hmm.
that are doing all of this investigating and exploring and experiencing, I'm hooked. Like, the writing is really good. So I'll sing the praises. I've
Hmm.
already been starting to do that on the internet. But if I start a book and I'm like, this ain't it, Chief, it will just be very quiet. But again, also like you, I'm one of the Spiffo judges on Fanfi Addict's team, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be public
Yeah.
about these negative opinions that I may have. But
Yeah.
luckily, it's you have a whole team to work with, and you can work through it together.
Abel was very kind. He was like, "If you want to just give me your thoughts, I'll post the review." I was like, "No, no, I'll do it. Like, I'm not gonna make you the bad guy." But,
Yeah.
but
No,
yeah,
it's
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 fun.
yeah. It is the unfortunate part of a competition is you're asking us to rank them, so I'm sorry, we're going to rank them, and not everybody can be number one.
Yeah, it's competent. I wish I tell people all the time, I wish I could read every single book that I get pitched. I wish I could read, 24/7, but it's just not the reality. I had to learn how to say no
Yeah.
recently. As a people pleaser, that is very difficult for me. But I buried myself in the beginning of this year, and I'm paying for it now. But
Oof.
we're
All right.
it's Spiffbo came out of nowhere. I didn't expect that, so I had agreed to a lot of stuff, and then Abel reached out, and I was like, I can't say no to this. So,
Yeah. No, I hear you. God, get out of my head, man. I've also been needing to start telling people no things. Like I've had people starting to reach out to me and be like, "Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I just don't have the time."
yeah,
Like I want to do all these things. I want to be in every. I want to stick my finger in every part of the community, but I'm only one man.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So getting back to focusing on your journey though, and how you came to be into bromantasy, when did you first fall in love with like fantasy and sci-fi as a genre, and what early books like really shaped your first reading?
I This is the one I always have the answer for because it just has stuck with me forever. It was fourth grade, and it was The Giver by Lois Lowry, which I have reread probably three times since then, or no, two times since then, so three times total. I'm very much overdue to read it again. Um, but that book, I just remember as a kid, like I don't remember the details of that book at the time. I do now, but it wouldn't be fair to say like fourth grade me remembers. But I do remember like it just fundamentally changed how I thought about a lot of stuff. Um, and like the this for anybody that hasn't read it, I mean, it is arguably a classic at this point. I think it's a short read. I highly recommend it, but just the way that that book kind of explored how, and again, it's so much better for me to articulate this as an adult than it would have been as a 4-year old. I don't know why it stuck with me so hard as a 4-year old. I know, like, I think about it through an adult lens now, so it's not really the most fair thing, but it was just, that is the one that has always stuck with me because of just, I found it so interesting, like how it was told. And I remember, my teacher, like, I remember looking forward to it. I remember almost nothing about that age period now at this point, but I remember still, like, vividly today, like, I would look forward to the part of the week where, like, he would read it at the end of the day. Like, I don't even know if that's a fourth grade reading level book or if that's taught. I don't know how that works, or maybe he just wanted to read it and that was his excuse. But either way, like, that is something that has always stuck with me, and that's a book, like, I like to go back to. I think it's a great empathy book. Like, it forces you to have empathy to read through it and understand it just because of how it's told and the things that it's exploring. Like, if you can't practice empathy, the book, you're gonna hate it, I think, because it'll be boring.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. I'm looking it up right now, and I'm trying to remember because I haven't read the book but I'm pretty sure I've watched the movie.
The movie was, from what it's been a long time since I've watched it. I think I've only watched it once, but I don't
Hmm.
think it does it justice, which I know is the typical book answer. Um, but yeah, it's very interesting. It's a world of black and white. There's only one guy who has like emotion and like can see color. I can't even like do it justice to explain it. It's so hard to explain, but he's getting older, and now he has to bring in like the replacement for him, who was a young kid, and he now is experiencing all of this stuff that nobody knows about through the, through these, however he transfers it to him. I can't even remember now. It's been so long since I read it. But I just remember it's so profoundly like it literally is teaching him empathy in a sense, because he doesn't understand the emotions that he's having or why he's having them as he's seeing these things unfold. Like he's never experienced pain, if I remember correctly, and things like that too. So it's just it's a such an interesting, unique concept. And people yell at me because I've only read the one book. Apparently there's four of them. It's like a whole series. Yeah, but again, this is, I don't know when it was written specifically. I forget the year, but it's definitely an older book, and it's short. Like in comparison to today's books, you could finish that thing in a weekend. I think it's like 200 and something pages.
Yeah, it's written in 1993.
Okay. Yeah. So
I don't know why. I thought it was older.
so did I. That makes me think that maybe it was, God, was it new? I don't remember what year I was in fourth grade. I was born in 89. For anybody that wants to do the math, when you watch this later, you can comment and let me know what year I would have been in fourth grade.
Get back to us. Okay, so starting with The Giver, I assume you read for a while after that, like growing up, but then you took a break for 14 years for not reading. What
Yeah.
really made that start happening? Did life just get busy and you got older
Life.
and your
Yeah,
interest or
it
changed?
was, it was interesting. Like I was reading a lot, and I had just started a new job, and it was like 2012-ish, I want to say, give or take, maybe a little earlier. And I was reading at work, and then I got this new job, and the new job required me to like focus all the time. And then I was working doubles, so I'm a career switcher. Uh, so up until like 6 years ago, I did 10 years of public safety and law enforcement. So it was not a job where I could just, read all the time, and you were working 90 hours a week to, so reading just kind of took a back seat. Like it was, I would come home and I would throw the TV on, or I would come home and I would play a video game, and like that would be it. That was the gist of it. And then it just kind of never got picked back up. And had it not been for my wife, I don't know if I ever would have picked it back up, to be honest.
Well, welcome back to the fold. I'll have to send your wife some flowers or something to thank her for bringing you to the community.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was good. When I was reading back then, though, so whenever that was, I was very into. I guess it was YA. I didn't even. I mean, I knew nothing about genres back then. I just read stuff that sounded good, like, or that was popular. So like, I picked up the Hunger Games and I flew through that. I was a big dystopian fan. Still am. It's actually kind of hard to find dystopia now that is like gives me that same kind of feeling, and I won't go back and read any of them because I want to let the nostalgia live, because I have a feeling they probably weren't great books. But or I don't want to say they weren't great books. Hunger Games is the Hunger Games, but like I read Divergent after that. I read through that whole series, and then I read Marie Lu's Legend series. Those are the ones that stick out. And then I read A Song of Ice and Fire. All in that realm. And then Ender's Game was another one that I loved. Another one that's wildly short, and I remember at the time reading it thinking it was so long. Uh, but to look at it now, but yeah, I've always loved this genre. I've always been into like sci-fi and fantasy, like movies and shows. I Mass Effect is still my favorite video game, I think, to this day.
It's so good.
It's such
Only the
it's
original
gold
trilogy. Nothing else
storytelling.
exists.
Yes, yes, I agree. But yeah, I mean, it's such great storytelling, and it's immersive. I think that is what I love about Mass Effect. Like, I like RPGs and like Final Fantasy and whatever, but like Mass Effect is that one game that sticks out to me where it was so immersive because it mixed like the action combat with, all the deep character stuff you could do and like your choices, and you were involved in the story and stuff like that. And I think that's why I enjoy reading fantasy and sci-fi so much, because if you can get immersed in a book, it's the best experience. Yeah, I don't get to like choose your own adventure, but I'll take it.
No, I get you. Mass Effect story is still, in my opinion, one of the best in gaming.
Yes.
Like to this day, everybody is still talking about it. Like it was still a little wonky on the controls on the first game, but god
Oh yeah.
damn, did they fix it in two and then double down on three? It was oh, it's so
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, the
I have
ending
strong
is the
opinions
only
about it.
thing that's ever been controversial about that game, the original trilogy. But I thought the ending was good. I don't know.
I liked it. I was satisfied. I
Yeah,
had a good time.
exactly.
Like,
I didn't think it
I'm
was
not going to worry about
terrible.
it too much.
Yeah,
What was that?
exactly. I said I didn't think it was terrible, but I also like the ending of The
Oh,
Sopranos, which a lot of people tend to not like. So I
I'm
like the
not
open
familiar with that.
endedness. It
Okay.
ends on like a very open, like it leaves it to you to kind of determine what happens.
A
And
lot of
that's
people
how
don't
it
like that.
lands. Yeah, people do not like to have to be imaginative. They like a closed package at the end of the day, which I understand. I get.
Hmm. So, how has your approach of book reviews evolved since you started the blog, especially with the terms that you emphasize, like story first elements, like characters, worlds, and plots?
That was not how I reviewed books when I first started at all.
Oh,
Um, so I always had the review system that I have. So I always had like the five elements of like story, like the what you would call like the academic or whatever, like the prose, the world building, all that kind of stuff. And then I have what I call the reader experience scores, which was the spice level, which I called like between the sheets, which was funny and is now stuck there because if I feel like if I change it, it'll be bad. I have the bro reading comfort, which is basically just like, can you sit on the subway and read this book without somebody giving you the side eye and now you're uncomfortable about it? Um, and then the darkness factor, I think, is what I called it, which kind of just it's not about how dark the book is per se, but it's how detailed and graphic the book will get in those descriptions of those things. So I guess where most people would say like you would get your trigger warnings from, like I don't list trigger warnings. I kind of just use that section to delve into that piece. But when I first started, so all those scores were always there, but I was very analytical, or at least I tried to be. I thought I was smarter than I was, but I it was almost robotic. Like I would read the books. I knew what I loved about them, but like in my head, a review needed to be more structured and like less about me and my feeling about it and more about like what the book provided. So like hitting on why the prose was this or hitting on why the world building, like giving examples and like talking about those pieces. So it wasn't bad, it didn't do bad, you know what I mean? Like it still got some decent traction. But then I don't know, it's at some point I just kind of said screw it. I don't remember what I read, but it might have been Discovery, to be honest with you. It was that or maybe Mercy Tears of the Fallen. Those were my intro to indie, so I was very spoiled going into indie too. Yeah. Um, but I just remember like I was like I got to talk about this like the way I want to talk about it, like why it was so good and whatever. And those reviews did numbers. Like it was crazy the difference and I was like, "Oh, people like that?" I was like I had no idea. I assumed that like reviews needed to be, I didn't read a lot of online reviews. I like to go into books with as little knowledge as possible. Like I didn't even read the blurb on Red Rising, thank God, because in my opinion it spoils like the massive major plot point of the entire first book.
oh my
um
God.
yeah, if you haven't read it, like
I
don't read the
haven't,
blurb.
and
Do not read the
I'm
blurb.
not going to read the blurb. Like you, I prefer to go in blind. This is a new discovery for me, probably in the last like year. But I find like the less I know going into the book, the more satisfied I am.
Yeah, same. But yeah, so like that worked and I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to do that with everything I read and my Google ranking went through the roof. Like my click through, like all this stuff, like it's I have all that stuff set up because I can have it. So like I don't have any kind of like specific user tracking. There's no like logins or anything, but I can see the traffic. I can see what people, you jump from a review to a review and whatever. So obviously I optimized some stuff, but most of it was the review content changed. And then all of a sudden like the traffic to the site shot up. Like I was ranking number 1 on Google for like a lot of my reviews on like big name popular books. Like I was top Google rank for Shadows Upon Time when that book before it came out and then after for a while. And I was like, that's crazy. Until like I forget who reviewed it. Somebody massive with like huge domain authority reviewed it, and then I got bumped. But it was pretty cool. And I was just like, that book I gushed over. Favorite series of all time. If you have not read Sun Eater, can't
I've
recommend it
read the
enough.
first two.
Okay.
I wasn't on board on the first one. I really liked his writing, but I wasn't on board with the story in the first one. But through the encouragement of a friend, I started Howling Darkness, and I was like, God damn, this turned around really well.
Yeah, book one is. I tell people book one is like a prequel. Like that's the best way to look at book one. Like there's a complete story in book one. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot to digest. But it's one of those important books, in my opinion, in a series like that that spans 7 books. And what I found really interesting, random quick aside, is that Christopher Ruckia recently talked about every book he wrote was leading up to Shadows Upon Time. Shadows Upon Time was the book he wanted to write, and he needed to write all of those books to get there, which is a, amazing. And the other thing I did not realize recently until Jackson Ford started reading it was that Ruckia was 22 years old when he published Empires of Silence. And his prose in that book was wild. And then Howling Dark is, and if you liked Howling Dark, which I loved, especially like it was very introspective. I know a lot of people don't love the fact that the middle is very introspective, but book three, Demon in White, was the book that made me say like this guy could write about anything and I would buy it.
Man, I've been hearing so many great things about it. And again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, where it's like my time is limited, especially with
Mm-hmm.
like having a show like this. I try really hard to read all my guests' books.
Yeah.
So that eats up a lot of my time. And now with like Spiffbo and stuff like that. But Sun Eater, from everything that I've heard, I don't know what happens in the story, and I'm aiming to keep it that
Mm-hmm.
way. Uh, but from everything that I've heard from everyone who has read it, between like friends and the online community, I think it's going to go down as like a modern classic in
Yeah.
sci-fi. Like it's going to be considered one of the greats
Yeah.
based
It's
on what I'm seeing from the reaction of people.
I tell people all the time like this is a book that'll be the conversations when people talk about like the best sci-fis that you can read, and they talk about Dune and they talk about Book of the or is it Book of the New Sun? Gene Wolfe's book. Um, you know, this is a book that's going to be included in those conversations long after I'm gone.
Wow. God, that is so wild that we are here at the birth of that.
Yeah.
And
It
knowing that, because I remember reading through Howling Dark and I'm like, this reminds me so much, and this is what really drew me into it was the musings
mhm.
make me think so much of like meditations and other like straight philosophy books that I really liked reading, and I'm like, this is fantasy, this is sci-fi with real emotional power, real life lessons happening here. And you can learn so much from fiction. And this is one of the
Yes.
ones where you will learn many great lessons.
Yeah, his writing is incredible. His philosophical explorations, like you're talking about, are just they're so profound. And like there's a lot of quotes in there, especially as you go through the series from like philosophers or like famous works. Because he does this awesome thing where he calls back to like modern, well, I don't want to say modern times, but classics. And because Hadrian's well read and all that kind of stuff. Like that's a big focal point, even in book one. Like he's a very well read person. And it's just, oh, it's so good. And truly, like Shadows Upon Time, I think was probably the best ending I've ever read, hands down. Like it was the perfect fit. Like there are a lot of people that have had like weird critiques about it, but it gives you exactly what it promised. Like that series gives you exactly what it promised, and he avoided, in my opinion, the temptation to go past it. Like the opportunity was there. You know what I mean? Like you've read the first book. Anybody that knows, like this isn't a spoiler because it is literally the first page. It's a frame narrative, and he tells you that he blows up a sun. That is the premise of the entire story, and that is what you experience the traversal to getting to that point. And he very much could have taken that at the end in the last book and gone and given you the narrators now and where he goes. And he dodges that completely and doesn't indulge it. And I think some people were disappointed by that, but I truly believe like him sticking to that is what made this a series that will be talked about forever because he didn't give in to that like very easy win where he could have said, "Oh yeah, this is where he is now and what he's doing."
Yeah, it sounds like he didn't cheapen it.
Yeah, exactly. It was. Mm.
I need to find time to finish this series.
I hear you. The audiobooks, if you're an audiobook person, Samuel
I
Orkin
am.
crushes that series. It's so good.
Oh
I did a
yeah.
lot of flip-flopping. So I would like read and then like get in the car and do audiobook. Like normally I try to have one and one so that I can read two books
Mhm.
at once basically, but that one it was like one of those books where like I'd be reading, I'd have to like go pick up my kid and I would be like, "Okay, and I'm going to go turn it on in the car."
It's nice if you do it like both through like Kindle and Audible too. You can get them to like sync with each other,
Yeah.
which is very convenient. Like say what you will
Spotify
about
just
Amazon and all that, that's a nice feature.
Spotify just released a thing where you can scan the page of your book and it'll sync your audiobook to that page. I haven't tried it yet, but people are
Technology is so
raving about it.
cool.
Yeah, it is.
Oh man, I didn't even know that was an option.
It
Uh,
literally, I think it's in beta right now, but it's like available.
okay, man, I'm gonna have to try that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but I saw somebody post a reel about it today, and I was like, oh my god, it works.
Excuse me. Uh, so going back to like the critique that you use for how you're figuring out your metrics. Excuse me. Oh,
All
I
right, you're
need to
good.
drink water. There we go. So in covering genres like epic fantasy, sci-fi, lit RPG,
You,
sci-fantasy. Oh,
I don't want to cut you. You got really loud. I don't know if you tapped something on like the gain.
oh, give me a second. How are we now?
You're good. You're like you didn't sound bad, but you suddenly were like much louder than you were. So I don't
No,
know
it's all
if
right.
you're not peaking or anything. It was just sorry. I didn't mean to
Okay,
cut
good.
you off. It was just
No, no, no. Thank you for letting me know. It is good to know these things now because I can fix this in post. No
yeah. Oh,
worries.
absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, so getting into like covering the genres of like epic fantasy, sci-fi, sci-fantasy, and like all the genres in between, what how did you come up with your criteria for the unique rating system that you use? Like how do you decide this is this spice level, this is this level of darkness, this is this level of public reading? Like how do you decide where it goes on that scale?
It is incredibly subjective. I like to say that like I try to keep boxes like I do have an explanation on the site of like what technically would fall in those levels. The thing is as anybody knows, the more you become I hate the term well read, but you know, the more you read basically, your yeah, your taste is going to change, your tolerance for things, you start to figure out what levels make sense. The thing you thought might have been, you know, super heavy on the spice is nothing. You know, and you find that pattern where like, oh, this is what heavy spice looks like. This is what, you know, this is a cover that's going to make me go, oh, I'm not bringing this on the subway. You know, I can't do it. It's got to be on the Kindle. You know, that kind of stuff. It's more subjective in the moment too. Like I've rated books, you know, with a higher darkness than, and then I'll read like a grimdark and I didn't feel it was that dark and I'll rate it. And I've had people reach out to me and they're like, dude, you said this was this dark and this is not as dark. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a day by day process. Like I would love to be as objective as possible and like have a good scale, but it is, I think it's why I love doing the long form reviews. They're like anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 words on average. They take me a very long time to write, and then I don't have an editor, so like self editing is a brutal process. Um, and I'm not a writer. Like it has never been my intention to be one. So that is the extent of my writing. Like, and I think I like the real content and the video content so much more now because it's just what I feel at that time. Like it's not like a scale that I have to like pop it against. Like I do try even when I do the written ones, but I don't have like a index or whatever you call it, like a guide off to my side that says, "Hey, this is, you know, this is what this is, so make sure you're in these bounds." It's kind of like I write it and then sometimes very rarely I'll look and I'll be like, maybe that's a little more or maybe that's a little less, but very rarely do I change anything. I don't believe in changing reviews later either. I will never do that. I will change how I talk about it, but I won't go back and change like a star rating on something I read when I first started compared to now. Like I would arguably probably change a lot of my early reviews, but I don't think that they're time capsule. That's probably the best way I like to say it. Like they're frozen in time. That is how I felt in the moment at the time that I reviewed it. I may not agree with that opinion now, but that was what I felt at the time, and I think it's kind of it allows people to see your growth, but it also feels more transparent. I almost feel it would me personally, again, this is a personal thing. I would almost feel disingenuous to go back and change reviews based on my reading now because I don't want somebody to say, "Oh, well, you're bending to the trend," or anything like that. Like, I very much hold my values as important and my word is important. I've always been that way, so I like to. I'm very transparent. I never hide, that I haven't read X, Y, and Z, or that I, only started reading a year ago. That kind of stuff. I think it's important. Again, not everybody has to do what I do either, but it's just kind of where I
Yeah,
land.
yeah, it's really wild how we've brought this up multiple times, but how subjective this all is with if you read a book today and then read this same book as if you had for the first time a year from now, you're going to have very different experiences with
Hmm.
it just based on like what happened to you earlier that day. Is your stomach feeling a little upset? Are you comfortable? Are you having a good time in your life at this moment? Like sometimes books come at you at the right time that you need them and sometimes they don't.
Hmm. Yeah, totally agree. I did that to myself. I burned out on the big November 3 because I sprinted Sun Eater in like 3 months to get that arc done early. Um, and then I read Strength of the Few, and then I read Empire of Dawn, and I was like, anything I read through like November and December, which I felt terrible because I did like a whole indie Vember thing for like only indies in November, and I loved the ones I read. Don't get me wrong, but those books probably got a little bit more of a rough look than they would have had I not burnt myself out going into them.
Yeah. When Spiffo started, I was reading Strength of the Few, and I realized that I needed to put it down because one, it had been a while since I read Will of the Many, and I was really enjoying Strength of the Few, but I was like, I am not in a headspace to contain the complication that is this story. The
Yeah.
writing is really good. I'm really enjoying it, but I need to start this series over and go immediately from book one to book two to really ingest this. And I just don't have the time or brain mass to do that right now.
Yeah. I can say, had I not read Will of the Many so close to that, it I would have been completely lost. I still had to like go back and check a couple things
It,
because
it's a
like even in the
lot.
first few pages, I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, I had just read it like 2 months before that, and I was just like, wait. How did book one end again?
Yeah, yeah. The book two starts right where book one ends,
Yeah.
which you don't get very often in books. So I did like that. But it is very, if it's been a while, you may want a refresher.
Yeah.
But we are getting near the end of our time on this first episode that we're having with you. I did want to get into one more question.
Sure.
Uh, Looking back on your journey, what advice would you give to aspiring book bloggers or readers hesitant about exploring new subgenres like romantasy or romance?
I would say that I think you need to I don't want to say read reviews because it's a tough argument to make as somebody who likes to not know things about it. Maybe listen to reviews. Find non-spoiler reviews of books that are not something you would normally read, and pay attention to the things that the reviewer is talking about. Not maybe so much about the writing style or like, oh my God, this was so hot and heavy. Listen to like the emotional beats they talk about, like, oh, the found family aspect of this, or I couldn't believe how deep they went into like the exploration of trauma and so on and so forth. And just listen for like key things that you really enjoy in your current genre, and I'm willing to bet I always like to joke, like, I can, out of what I've read at least, I can always try to find something that might be able to get you to jump a genre and probably have at least a decent time. Like, not hate it. I can't guarantee you're gonna love it, but I always try to at least give the warning that like you might not love every part of it, but I think you'll enjoy it. Um, but yeah, I mean, just give it a shot. Like that's it sounds so cliche and it's such a cliche answer, but like I picked up Heated Rivalry, and like that is not my I don't read contemporary romance. I you know outside of the fact that it was a FOMO book for the most part, like I'll openly admit, and I like hockey. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. Why not? And honestly, it was great. Like, did the spice land for me? No, but it didn't put me off to it or anything like that. It is an incredible love story, I will say that, and it's very thematically heavy in the giving you a lens that you might not have into like the societal expectations of, male sports players who are gay and have to combat like getting that internal dialogue from the characters of like wanting something so badly and feeling so strongly about another person, and at the same time questioning everything they're doing because that is what has been baked into them for so long by, especially in sports. um it it is just, it's wrong. That's basically what they're thinking the whole time. They're warring with themselves on like love, and this is wrong, love, and this is wrong. And like, I would have never gotten that experience had I not just said screw it and picked up the book. That is not a book I would have sought out 6 months ago at all. And it's not something that is my typical genre. Like, I don't read contemporary, only I maybe to my detriment. It's something I said I was going to read more of this year, so I'm trying to, but it's not something that like I'm like, oh, I got to go pick this up. So every once in a while the FOMO is good. um but yeah, just give it a shot. Like, you'd be surprised how much you are not getting that you might enjoy, just because you're literally marketed that that's not for you. Sorry, I hit the mic.
There is some mic punching that happens in this show. We all do it. It's okay. But the power of FOMO will compel you. I will say
Yes.
that. Awesome. Devin, thank you so much for coming on to the show. Can you tell the people where can they find you on the internet?
It is Bromantasy on everything. Bromantasy.com is the website. Bromantasy on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, that I try not to use anymore for the most part. I think I'm on Threads, not that I ever open it. But yeah, so it's Bromantasy on everything.
Awesome. Again, thank you for coming on to the show this week.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And folks, we're going to have him back on next week as we're going to be diving into spice and romance in fantasy and sci-fi. So come back for that. And until next time, let's be author adjacent together. See you.
Bye, y'all.
And we did the show.